Thank you, Rabbi Brett, for giving me this very special opportunity to feel connected with Or Sameach of Cape Town. I'd like to share a few introductory thoughts with you that will hopefully be a sense of context, maybe a sense of greater understanding for the next 25 hours. The laws of Avelus, the laws of mourning in Judaism, are very structured. We have, from the most intense, the Aninus, the day a close relative finds out that they've suffered a loss. There's the Shiva, the 7 days following, the Shloshim, the first month, the 11 months that follow after that, and of course the Yortzeit. We know what to do. We have a surge of emotions, confusing, somewhat surreal even, and Halacha gives us a framework to take all that and to put it into a productive context. When, God forbid, a tragedy or an illness, as you know in this community, befalls us, we know what to do. We know to say Tehillim, Bake Challah, do things in the merit of the person that needs refuah shlema. There's a structure. When it comes to the mourning of the Beis HaMikdash, for the Holy Temple in Yerushalayim, it's a bit tough. We're unfamiliar. We don't feel as connected, not even emotively connected, to the Beis HaMikdash. We haven't seen it. We don't know much about it. Few of us have the time to really study what happened day in, day out in the Beis HaMikdash. So it's very difficult. In the Northern Hemisphere, the whole Tisha B'Av experience and the 3 weeks, I would bet for many is actually quite inconvenient. It comes in smack in the summer vacation. I think we all have a silent struggle with it. But perhaps we can get a greater understanding and appreciation for this time of sadness, a time that we take very seriously in Judaism, because we're supposed to function b'simcha. We notice something very interesting when it comes to the Avelus, when it comes to the mourning time of the 3 weeks. And perhaps it's because we're not as connected to the Beis HaMikdash, we're not as familiar with the reality of the time and what we're missing, that the Avelus, that the mourning process actually starts much more gradually as opposed to much more intense. We have a fast day on Shivarsa B'Tammuz. At that time, for the first week or so, we don't have weddings, we don't listen to live music, men don't shave. Then comes Rosh Chodesh Av, the 9 days, so to speak. The intensity heightens. We don't wear freshly laundered clothing. We don't eat meat, except on Shabbos and maybe for a siyum. It gets much more intense. And then the week of is another level of intensity. And then finally Tisha B'Av, the most intense. And perhaps that's for us to become a little bit more sensitized and a time to become more acquainted for this time called the Bein HaMetzarim, the time that we're standing between the straits, to try to give us an opportunity to become a little more sensitive as to what Tisha B'Av is all about. But perhaps there is something we can all connect to. The Beis HaMikdash, the mourning of the temple, is very challenging for most of us, quite understandably. But there is a part we can't connect with, and that is the reason that Chazal tell us as to why we have the Churban in the first place, a reason that we're very much in control of and can change. We know that the second Beis HaMikdash, the second temple, was destroyed because of sinas chinam, baseless hate. Hard to understand the concept. And that the ultimate tikkun, the ultimate corrective measure, is the idea of loving one another. V'ahavta l'recha kamocha. Doesn't mean I always agree. Doesn't mean we don't debate. Doesn't mean that we always need to sit next to one another. But you're a brother, and you're a sister, and we're all part of one big family. That kind of realization, sometimes, even within our own nuclear family, we can forget it. Because we grow acquainted to them. We grow used to the people that we're around all the time. And sometimes we forget. And unfortunately, sometimes a tragedy has to come in Eretz Yisrael, on the other side of the world, in our own community, that brings us together. There's one halacha that gets a lot less airtime that I think I'd like to focus on as a point of introduction. Many of us know that there are 5 major prohibitions when it comes to Tisha B'Av in terms of pleasure, in terms of comfort. We don't bathe, sicha, we don't anoint ourselves, we don't wear leather, we don't sit on high chairs, there's no intimate relations, and those things, for the most part, we all hear of and we're familiar with. But there's one halacha that comes a little bit later on that I believe is far more profound. The halacha says like this: Ein she'elas shalom lechavero b'Tisha B'Av. One cannot initiate a greeting, a shalom aleichem, to his or her fellow Jew on Tisha B'Av. The Mishnah Berurah continues to say that one can't even say tzafra tava. You can't even say good morning, not even using the word shalom, which is Hashem's name. You can't even say good morning. I wonder if that's really at the heart of Tisha B'Av. I wonder that when you hear the halacha, if you've heard it before, or if this is the first time you're hearing it, if it troubles you in any way, if that bothers you, that you can't say good morning or shalom aleichem to fellow Jew. If it troubles you, it should. If it doesn't trouble you, maybe that's what the opportunity of Tisha B'Av is. How is it I could be okay without seeing another Jew and saying shalom aleichem? What's gone wrong? Have I taken you for granted? Do I see you too much? Do I need to know you to say hello? Do we have to be close? Do I have to think that we're close? That halach of Sheila Shalom, I think most of us need to struggle with. I certainly struggle with it myself. I thought the opposite should be the halacha of the day. I thought the halacha should say, you can't break your fast until you've given 1,000 shalom aleichems or good afternoons to your fellow Jew. Then you can break your fast. Wouldn't that be the tikkun? Would that be the corrective measure? Well, it's not, because that's not the ideal. The ideal is that when someone says, I can't say hello, the halach is, I can't say hello to you, I can't say shalom aleichem to you, that hurts me, it pains me. I feel so disconnected, and I want to feel connected. And therefore the halacha is drawing on the ideal. And perhaps that's why we sit alone. We sit. We don't greet. We try to find within ourselves the voice that says, what does it feel to be alone? To not be connected to somebody else? Am I okay with that? Am I okay living in my bubble? Or do I realize that I'm part of a family? I'm part of Klal Yisrael. And we all need to work together. That is the ultimate tikkun. That is the tikkun, the corrective measure for sinas chinam. And that's ahavas chinam. I love you because you're a relative. I don't have to agree with you. Don't always have to see eye to eye with you. But I want to share in your simcha. I want to share in your journey. I think that's a halacha and a concept that perhaps we can all bring with us into Tisha B'Av. It's an ideal which is in our hands. And perhaps over the course of the next 24 hours, we could take the opportunity to listen to our voice without any interruptions, without people interrupting us, without technology interrupting us. For us hearing our voice, do I feel that there's a sense of loss? Do I feel that we're not living in the ideal way that we can? Because it's in our hands. Each of us makes a little shift of a behavior after Tisha B'Av. And then we've learned the lesson of Tisha B'Av. And if we do so, God willing, next year Tisha B'Av will be a Yontif in Yerushalayim.